If you were standing in front of me and I had teased you for years, are you going to try to reason with me, or are you going to put a bullet in my head?
Nine school shootings in 4 years. 26 students and 4 teachers dead. Over 70 others hurt. You probably remember where you were when you heard the news. And you probably remember how you felt.
First thing I felt was shock and disbelief that this was actually happening.
Disbelief because teenagers know that Columbine, Paducah, Heritage High could have been their school.
I can look in my cafeteria every day and see, what's going on that's causing these kind of problems. I can see the jocks and I see the kids getting made fun of every day, and I think that it really hits home, and I feel like it could happen in my school.
I mean, everybody gets a little bit of it, and there's certain individuals that get it all the time by everyone. And I could see how I could see how someone like that would explode and go out and want to kill somebody.
Michael Carneal, who killed 3 teens in Paducah, later said he was broken down, out of control, from the teasing and taunting of his classmates. And the guys responsible for the Columbine killings were also known as outsiders. It doesn't excuse what they did, but some kids say it makes you think about the effects of cruelty. Cruelty that too often leads to real violence.
If you were standing in front of me and I had teased you for years, and you were standing there holding a gun in your hands, are you going to try to reason with me, or are you going to put a bullet in my head?
Do you have fears about your school? Can a single student make a difference for positive change? Who would you turn to for help? Reality Matters explores how other kids confronted the violence and how you and your friends can be part of the solution. And by looking to peers, teachers, and adults, you can find hope and the answers you need to stop the cruelty.
I think everyone taunts everyone. I taunted people in school. People taunted me in school. Somebody taunted them. Everybody taunts everybody.
Every day we are seeing violence. There's just a basic feeling of trapped, Kids feel trapped.
Trapped, mostly by fear. Some fear violence. Studies show almost 160,000 students a day miss school because they fear being attacked by a bully. But more fear being left out, being teased themselves for being different. Many teens know the feeling of going along with being mean to others because it's too hard to stand alone. But you are not alone. 85% of us are in the caring majority. Are you?
I like to take up for people, but then that involves me in the situation, and I could end up getting hurt. So it's kind of like have mixed emotions about it. Do I protect that person and put myself at risk, or I don't know.
But now that Tina knows a victim, she takes the risk and gets involved. Josh Belluardo, a 12-year-old boy in Tina's community, was hit from behind by a bully and killed. It was not an isolated incident. Most knew the bully, knew he was teasing, taunting, and hurting Josh. And there are many other victims, like Russell Mayhew, who suffer because they are different.
He might have punched me like 15 or 20 times. And
Russell knows how it feels to be beaten for being different.
Twice, but not much.
He and others speak for Josh Belluardo and Brian Head, who can't tell their own stories.
Basically, he gave up. He felt like no one understood and no one cared.
But to stop this kind of tragedy, it is also important to know the bully, often a different kind of victim, like Nicole Blakely.
I was mad. It was like my whole mind was set in flames. It was just like a lot of fire was inside of me, and that's the only way I could release it.
And Adam Brownfield, whose violence ended in tragedy.
When you first do it, you really don't think about it. You don't care about the consequences because you're young.
Both trapped by an internal anger that escalates into a need to hurt others. Why has school become such a cruel place? And how do we stop the cruelty and learn to care?
The little things start at first, and it builds up, and it builds up, and then that's when you actually have the fight.
This is a real fight, caught on tape by security cameras. A recent study says about 75% of students are bullied or victimized each school year. Many times it happens on the school bus. Kids like Josh Belluardo.
Josh was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
13-year-old Josh Belluardo was teased often on the school bus. In 1997, as he was stepping off the bus, the teasing escalated to punching. A boy hit Josh in the back of the head, crushing his skull and his chest. The boy later said he didn't mean to kill Josh, but it was too late. Josh never came out of the coma. Jeremy Wolf lived in Josh's neighborhood.
Everyone's afraid to get into a fight now because they don't know what's going to happen. Because, I mean, everything's just like split second at the moment. Anything could happen.
Tina Shepard went to a nearby school.
When you start with intimidation and things build up and build up, you get to the explosions, you get to the fights. You know, so the little things start at first and it builds up and it builds up, and then that's when you actually have the fight.
Josh Parker went to church with Josh.
Fighting doesn't solve anything. You're going to end up hurting yourself or somebody else in the long run. And it would be better to talk about it and to solve it with words than to solve it with fists.
For Josh, Tina, Jeremy, and an entire community, Josh Belluardo's death is a horrible reminder that meanness can escalate to murder. That the problem starts with the snickers and sneers the security cameras don't see. That maybe only 1 or 2 kids actually hear. The words and attitudes that kids like Russell Mayhew will never forget. Russell was only in the 1st grade, the first time he was beaten up on the school bus.
He might have punched me like 15 or 20 times, and I got like maybe punched him once or twice, but not much.
Russell is great at playing chess, not so great at playing basketball. He's so smart he skipped 2 grades. He's different.
I feel bad that someone would actually think about trying to hurt you just because you're like smarter than them or something. Just because you're different.
Because you're different. Whether it's because you're smart or how you look, being different is one of the main reasons some kids become victims of bullying. The words and gestures come first.
Things like eye-rolling and name-calling, taunting, ridiculing, gossiping are all actually part of the continuum of violence and part of the continuum of bullying.
But the words often escalate to violence. Russell knows how it feels to be hurt and tries to understand why someone would want to hurt him.
He was just trying to be my friend, but he didn't know any way how other than to bully.
It's called empathy. That is, trying to truly understand how another person feels. Having empathy for another person, caring enough to walk in his or her shoes, is the first step to stopping the violence.
Even beyond the fact that they don't have to participate, they can actually stop it by saying, I'm not going to do that. That's not the right thing to do. We're not allowed to do that. Let's do something else.
If I see a kid get knocked down in the hallway and no one stops to help him up, that hurts me, you know?
Our emotions are common. We're all humans. Once you understand that, well, I am so uncomfortable, I'm so shy, I'm so sad, whatever the emotion, but this person sitting beside me feels the same way.
Once we focus more on caring than cruelty and try to understand each other, it's not as difficult to be a friend, even to someone who is different. But how can you stop the teasing?
Brian said, I didn't want to fight, I don't want to fight, but the boy slapped him anyway.
In many schools, kids start the day with a Pledge of Liberty and justice for all. But to some, the promise feels more like a lie.
We're asking kids to pledge allegiance to a flag that stands for justice for all. And yet, as soon as they get through with the pledge and go out in the hallway, they have to look over their shoulder because they don't know who's going to hit them from behind.
Brian Head was one of those kids. For him, school was a prison. His sentence? A daily regimen of taunting and teasing and ridicule. Some of his classmates joined in, others watched from the sidelines. But most students knew about Brian.
There was even one friend of Brian's who said that when he was asked who knew about the bullying and the harassment, the friend replied, the list was a lot shorter of who didn't know.
On that short list of who didn't know were Brian's parents, some teachers, a principal, the police, all the adults who could have helped. But embarrassed by the abuse, Brian kept quiet.
Brian knew that he couldn't have us come down to school every single incident. And it was also embarrassing at that age. That's the age when kids are trying to become independent.
And Brian's secret was safe with his classmates. It's a common problem. Kids know.
People take making fun of people and like harassing people and like not accepting people for granted, you know?
But they don't tell, often because they're afraid of being ridiculed themselves. And the kids who are the victims of teasing fear telling will only make it worse.
It'll stop it for a while, maybe during that class period, but eventually, you know, it's, oh, the teacher had to step in for you. Wow, the teacher's your friend. And then, you know, that causes another onslaught of ridicule.
Brian, trapped in the torment, at 15, he packed a gun in his backpack.
The boy came over and challenged him, and Brian said, I don't want to fight. But the boy slapped him anyway. And that's when Brian pulled the gun out of his book bag. And Brian was very well versed, trained in how to handle weapons. And he knew that the gun wasn't able to fire. But he pointed it at the boy to scare him. And then when they ran out, then Brian chambered around, and when the teacher walked in and tried to stop him, Brian cried out, I can't take this anymore, and then fired the fatal shot. He basically felt like that he knew he couldn't get help from his parents for every incident, and he wasn't getting help from his teachers. And basically he gave up. He felt like no one understood and no one cared.
But Bill Head has not given up. He is an activist against the crimes of cruelty, producing videos like these, teaching kids to stand up and speak out against violence.
It was once said that the beginning of wisdom was calling something by its correct name. And as long as we call assault and battery kids being kids, that's not the correct name.
We're talking about crimes here. And we're talking about not letting students do things that we would never let adults do out in society.
It starts with words. That leads to fights. Then someone pulls a knife or a gun.
Back in the 40s, we had kids fist fighting. Back in, you know, as it progressed, cars, switchblades, and now we've got guns. So I think this kind of bodes a pretty bad message for the rest of the world. It almost seems like it's really scary, the place that we're going, when in high school, which kind of mirrors the outside world, we've progressed to the point where people plan out assaults on their other students and they laugh at them and they taunt them before they kill them.
But students can help stop that kind of violence before it starts, by making the choice not to take part in the cruelty.
Very often, if the bully doesn't have a following or doesn't have an audience, then it can't escalate.
And by telling someone, by asking for help.
The child needs to know that there's help out there. There are adults who will stand in there for them. That's the reassurance that I think we have to give them. There are, in our community, has to be alert to that.
But who is there to help? How can talking with someone stop the cruelty? And how can you be a part of the solution?
You can be killed. You can be put in prison.
Good morning, sir!
Prison, a place where they control you when you can't control yourself.
I wouldn't wish this on nobody.
Adam Brownfield never thought he would end up here. locked down, fenced in. Like Adam, 17-year-old Nicole Blakely's life was also spinning, out of control. But instead of prison, Nicole ended up here, at an alternative school where she learned to control what she describes as a wildfire burning inside of her.
I only have one life to live, so I should make the best of it.
2 teenagers, both consumed by violence, and only one of them got a second chance. Adam Brownfield says in middle school, he was a normal kid.
I used to be in chorus and stuff and playing sport. I was always busy. I was either at practice or a game.
Looking forward to the future.
I always wanted to go to college and stuff, you know.
But instead of college courses, Adam is now taking classes with other prisoners, learning to control his anger. A tough lesson, learned a little late.
You couldn't get around me. If you did, you know, me and my homeboys or whatever, you know, we'd fight you, you know. You shouldn't do that, you know, because you can be killed. You can be put in prison.
Adam was a bully, but like many bullies, he was a victim first.
Growing up, we had to fight a lot because we were basically the only white kids there. There were very few of us, so we had to fight, you know. And when we got older and stuff, you know, we kept fighting and fighting.
Nicole also felt the pain of being different, and rather than cry, she learned to fight when she felt bad about herself.
I was like a bad kid because I had a lot of problems, like going on at home or whatever, and then I just felt like other kids were better than me because they had better families than me, so I probably just try to fight them for no reason or go after them, trying to attack them.
Adam and Nicole were on the same path, but ended up in different places. Both often got in fights like this one. Both often carried weapons like these, prepared to protect themselves or their family.
This individual hit my brother in the mouth, and he threatened to hit him again after school, so after school I ran home and I got a knife, and I met him walking to his house, and I put a knife in his throat, and he started crying.
My brother was picked on a lot, you know, and I didn't like it. It'd make me mad, you know, because, I mean, he's my flesh and blood, he's my brother, you know, and nobody likes to see their family members get picked on at all.
For Adam, fighting was almost like a drug, the one thing that made him feel good inside.
It gives you a natural high, really, fighting, you know, and it just gets worse, you know. Start using weapons, stuff like that.
And for Nicole, violence was a way to calm the anger.
I was mad. It was like my whole mind was set in flames. It was just like a lot of fire was inside of me, and that's the only way I could release it. The moment that I picked up the knife in the house, I could feel some of the flames going down, and I wanted to put them all out inside of me, so I went after my target. At the time, I felt kind of good inside. It was like all the flames had been put out.
Nicole had reached a point where she couldn't stop herself, and kids couldn't stop her either.
I think his parents had called the police already, and so the police had pulled up, and so I didn't stab him.
The police saved the boy, and Nicole.
I probably would have stabbed him in the neck, because there was a lot of people around, and I wanted him to feel the way he made my brother feel, so I probably really would have stabbed him in the neck.
Nicole now goes to an alternative school and has turned her life around.
Now I take life more seriously, and so before I go try to hit somebody or stab them because of something they did, I probably prefer just call the police and let them deal with it. Because I kind of learned how to deal with my anger.
Nicole got a second chance. Adam was not so lucky. Adam went to a party. A fight broke out. The violence got out of control, and no one could stop him. He stabbed another boy to death. Adam took someone else's life and ruined his own.
Teenagers feel that a bullet can't stop them, a knife can't stop them, you know. People can't stop them, you know. They speed, you know. They can't stop them.
But they are wrong. We live in a world where security cameras monitor school hallways, gun dogs sniff out lockers, and students bring weapons to school. But you can't resolve fights like these. When violence breaks out, how can you help?
People need to learn that bullying never gets them anywhere. It's just going to get you in trouble.
Teenagers say they have to live every day with the meanness and the cruelty.
I've been picked on before, and it's not fun at all. I've gone home from school crying, like, tons of times.
But those students, the ones who watch it happen day after day, are the same ones who can make it stop. You can be part of the solution.
There's about 80% of children who are neither bully nor victim, but what we'd like to make into what we call the caring majority, that they will have the skills to not let bullying happen, to see when it might happen and to intervene or to not join in or to get adult intervention and adult help.
And the students who have actually experienced the violence or have a friend that has been hurt or killed know just how important it is for the caring majority to get involved.
People need to learn that bullying never gets them anywhere. It's just going to get you in trouble.
I believe you can change just about any kid. It's up to you if you want to change your life.
For Nicole, changing her life took the intervention of the police, preventing what could have been a deadly mistake. But for Brian Head and Adam Brownfield, the deadly mistake was silence. A silence that cost Brian his life and Adam a 20-year term in prison. But Russell made a different choice. He reached out to a parent. And even though he feared kids teasing him more if they found out he told his mom, it was how he finally got the help he needed to stop the taunting and teasing.
It's also important for a child to know that there are some things that they're adult problems, and children hurting each other, that's a problem for adults to handle.
It's up to you, because the cruelty, the violence, the bullying is not someone else's fault. It's up to you to be part of the solution. Don't look the other way when you see somebody being mean to somebody else.
A lot of times I wish the world could be perfect or it could be a better place, but that's probably not a reality. I think that one person can make a difference, so if I can stay good and I can try my best to be the best person that I can be, then maybe I can influence someone else to do the same.